The worst part about betrayal is that it never comes from your enemies. I learned that brutal truth on a rainy Tuesday afternoon when I came home from a business trip to find my wedding dress missing and the unmistakable trace of my sister's perfume still lingering in the air. I'm Sienna. Up until that moment, I thought my life was perfectly in order. Successful career? Check. Perfect fiancé? Check. A close, unbreakable bond with my only sister? Double check. But life, as I was about to learn, has a cruel way of unraveling everything you thought was certain, all in a single, devastating instant. "Harper, something's wrong," I said breathlessly into my phone, pacing circles inside my walk-in closet. My voice trembled as my eyes scanned the empty space where my wedding dress was supposed to be. "The dress, it's gone. And Leela, she's been here. I can smell her signature vanilla perfume everywhere." There was a pause on the line, and when Harper finally spoke, her voice was unnervingly steady. "Sienna, you need to sit down." My heart dropped like a stone. Harper never used that tone unless something was catastrophically wrong. I sank onto the edge of my bed, still wearing my travel clothes, my suitcase half unpacked beside me. "What happened?" She inhaled sharply. "Leela and Damon, they got married yesterday. In your dress." The words punched the air out of my lungs. My grip tightened around the phone until my knuckles turned white. "What?" I rasped. It's everywhere. Social media. Everyone's talking about it." Harper's voice cracked. "I tried calling you earlier, but my flight was delayed. My phone died." As if hearing the words aloud unlocked something in my mind, all the subtle warning signs began clicking into place. Damon's strange distance over the last few weeks, Leela's sudden obsessive interest in my wedding plans, the way both of them had been unusually insistent that I take this business trip, despite how close it was to the wedding. "I'm coming over," Harper said without hesitation. "No." The word came out sharper than I expected. "No, I need to handle this myself." I ended the call with fingers that trembled but somehow still felt numb. For a few seconds, I just stared at the screen in disbelief, until a sick, twisted curiosity forced my fingers to open Instagram. And there they were. Dozens of pictures. Leela, in my wedding dress, smiling, laughing, kissing Damon. My dress, my fiancé, my sister. Beneath one of the photos was a caption that burned itself into my memory. "When you know, you just know. Sorry, sis. Sometimes love just can't wait." I laughed, not because any of this was remotely funny, but because sometimes when the world is collapsing around you, laughter is the only thing left before the storm hits. Because what they didn't know was that while they were busy playing their little game, I had been quietly playing a much bigger one. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus, my mentor. "Deals sealed. You now hold controlling interest in Stratton Dynamics. Announcement goes public next week. Congratulations." Damon's family company, the one he had been desperately trying to save for the past year, the company he would have sacrificed anything for. I smiled coldly. He just didn't know it yet. The doorbell rang. For a moment, I considered ignoring it, but curiosity and a growing sense of grim anticipation won out. I opened the door to find Nora, Leela's best friend, standing there looking sheepish and guilty. "Sienna, I'm so sorry. I tried to talk her out of it, I swear," she blurted, wringing her hands. "Come in," I said calmly, stepping aside. "Start talking." Nora sat on the edge of my couch, twisting her fingers anxiously. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. They've been planning it for weeks. Leela said you didn't deserve Damon, that you were too focused on your career, that he needed someone who actually put him first. I clenched my jaw but stayed silent, letting her continue. "She told Damon that you were cheating on him with that business partner of yours. She convinced him. She copied your apartment key. That's how she got in." Every word was a fresh cut, but I stayed quiet, absorbing it all, filing each detail away. They planned the wedding to happen during your business trip. She even said they should do it now before you figured anything out. Nora looked like she might start crying herself. And they're having a celebration dinner tonight at Celeste. Of course they were. I walked to the window, arms crossed, watching the rain trickle down the glass like the chaos unraveling my life. My phone vibrated again, Damon calling. I declined. Then I opened my laptop, heart pounding, hands suddenly steady. There it was, an email from Marcus, the acquisition paperwork waiting for my final signature. One click, and I would own everything Damon's family had built over 3 generations. One click, and I would burn every illusion they had about control, loyalty, and love. Another buzz, this time a text from Leela. Please don't hate me. We need to talk. I closed my eyes. Memories surged forward like a flood. Every moment I'd spent protecting her, covering for her mistakes, forgiving her recklessness, loving her, even when she didn't deserve it. And this is how she repaid me. I opened my eyes. My resolve hardened like steel. I clicked, sign. The deal was done. Rising from my chair, I stepped to my closet. No, not white, not today. I pulled out my best dress, blood red. If they wanted to play games, fine. But they had forgotten one crucial thing about me. I don't play to participate. I play to win. As I applied my lipstick, a new message popped up on my phone, this time from Marcus. Confirmation received. Congratulations, CEO. A slow, dangerous smile curled my lips. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and tonight I was more than happy to deliver. You're terrifying when you're this calm, Harper said, watching as I poured us each a glass of wine in my kitchen. Her brows knitted together, her voice an odd mix of awe and concern. I expected, I don't know, screaming, crying, throwing plates at the wall. But this, she waved her hand at me, this is something else. What's terrifying, I said, sliding her glass across the counter, is how predictable they both are. She leaned forward, lowering her voice as if someone could overhear us through the apartment walls. What exactly did you do, Sienna? I let the silence stretch for a long moment, just enough for her nerves to tighten. Did you know, I finally said, swirling the wine in my glass, that Damon's been trying to secure funding for months? Stratton Dynamics has been hemorrhaging cash. Bad leadership, bad decisions, desperation. Harper's eyes widened, slowly connecting the dots. And you, oh my God, you bought it. Not directly, I said, sipping. Marcus helped. We used shell companies, private equity firms, discreet, layered, invisible. Damon was so busy orchestrating his little betrayal, he never noticed who was buying up shares under his nose. Jesus, Sienna. Harper leaned back like she needed space to breathe. What's your plan? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. I walked over, glanced through the peephole, and immediately recognized the familiar silhouette. I opened it to find Marcus standing there, holding a thick manila envelope, water droplets from the rain still clinging to his coat. The final paperwork, he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. We moved to the dining table, spreading the documents across the polished wood. Harper hovered nearby, pretending she wasn't absolutely riveted. Marcus tapped on several highlighted sections. The announcement goes public next week. Once it does, the board will vote on leadership changes. Damon's role as CEO? Redundant. Effective immediately. Harper whistled low. He doesn't know? Marcus shook his head. No, he's been far too busy. Well, his gaze flicked meaningfully toward me. I signed one document, then another. Each stroke of the pen felt like stitching a wound closed. Not just a legal formality, but a reclamation of everything that had been stolen from me. My phone buzzed again. Damon, the 6th missed call today. You should answer, Marcus suggested, barely suppressing a smirk. Keep him guessing. Keep him spinning. I inhaled deeply, then pressed accept. Hello? My voice was smooth, measured, as if nothing was wrong. Sienna, thank God. Damon's voice poured through the receiver, strained and frantic. We need to talk. Please listen. What happened, it's not what you think. Oh? So you didn't marry my sister in my wedding dress? Silence. A long, gaping silence. That's what I thought. My tone remained light, almost teasing. Congratulations, by the way. I hope you both got everything you wanted. Sienna, please, please, I have to go. I interrupted, cutting him off mid-plea. I'm in the middle of something, business. I hung up before he could answer. Harper blinked. You're ice cold. No, I corrected. I'm focused. Marcus chuckled. Speaking of business, we need to discuss the gala next week. What about it? That's when the acquisition becomes public. The press will be there, all major shareholders, including Damon and his family. A new plan started weaving itself together in my mind, quick and sharp as lightning. Send them invitations, all of them. Make it impossible to say no. Harper hesitated, her expression softening. Sienna, are you sure about this? I get it. You want revenge, but don't let this consume you. You're better than that. I turned to her, my eyes steady. This isn't just revenge. This is business. Damon's incompetence has been driving Stratton Dynamics into the ground. I'm not destroying it. I'm saving it. And if his reputation gets burned to the ground in the process? I shrugged, taking another sip of wine. Karma. My phone vibrated again. A text. I didn't need to check to know who it was. Please answer. I can explain everything. Leela. She's persistent, Marcus noted, raising a brow. She's scared, I corrected. She knows me. She knows I don't get mad. I get even. Harper quietly sifted through one of the contracts. What about the employees, the real people, the ones who depend on Stratton Dynamics to feed their families? They'll be fine, I said, meaning it. I've already drafted restructuring plans. Most positions stay. I'm not here to burn it down. I'm here to rebuild it, without the dead weight. Marcus nodded. PR strategy is locked and loaded. Narrative is young, innovative CEO saves struggling tech giant. The press will eat it up. Another text from Damon buzzed through. Just saw the gala invite. We need to talk before then. Please. I showed it to Marcus, who chuckled. He's starting to sweat. Good. What's the next move? Harper asked. I stood, walking toward the window, looking out over the city. The lights blinked back at me like stars. Tomorrow, I'm going shopping, I said, my voice cool as glass. Then, my smile deepened. And tonight, I'm going to Celeste. Harper's head whipped toward me. Wait, you're crashing their dinner? Not crashing, I corrected, just stopping by to congratulate the happy couple. Harper's mouth opened, likely to protest, but I raised a hand. Relax. I won't cause a scene. I won't yell. I won't throw drinks. I turned back toward my reflection in the glass. I won't need to. Marcus started gathering the documents, sliding them back into the envelope. Just remember, he said, discretion is key until the announcement goes public. Trust me, I replied, brushing an invisible wrinkle from my sleeve. I know exactly what I'm doing. Harper stood, walking over and pulled me into a sudden, tight hug. Just don't lose yourself in this. Promise me. I held her for a long second, then pulled back. I won't lose myself. I glanced down at my phone one last time. A new text from Leela. Saw you're attending the gala? What are you planning? My fingers danced over the keys as I typed my reply. Just supporting my sister's new family. Isn't that what sisters do? I slipped the phone into my purse, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. Celeste was waiting, and I had a dinner to attend. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a smile and perfect timing. Celeste was exactly as pretentious as I remembered, all glittering crystal chandeliers, soft jazz floating through the air, and white tablecloths so crisp they practically glowed. It was the kind of place where people wore wealth like perfume, heavy, undeniable, and designed to choke anyone who didn't belong. I spotted them the moment I walked in. Leela, draped in some designer gown that likely cost more than her rent, her golden hair perfectly styled, her smile bright but brittle, and Damon, uncomfortable in his tailored suit, tugging at his collar as if the fabric itself could feel the weight of his guilt. They sat at a long table, surrounded by friends and acquaintances. Champagne flowed freely, laughter occasionally bubbling, though even from here I could see that it felt forced. Their smiles didn't quite reach their eyes. I stepped up to the maitre d', letting my heels click sharply against the marble for extra effect. "Table for one," I said, loud enough for the sound to carry. The maitre d' blinked, then glanced over my shoulder toward their table. His mouth opened, but I smiled, warm, polished, sharp as glass. I believe there's a perfect spot, just there. Heads turned, conversations stuttered and died. A ripple of discomfort spread outward like someone had dropped a stone into a still pond. Leela's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. Damon's entire body went rigid. I kept walking. Sienna, Leela stammered, scrambling to her feet so quickly her chair scraped violently against the floor. What are you doing here?" I smiled, accepting the menu from the hovering waiter, as if nothing were out of place. "Oh, don't let me interrupt. I just came for the lamb. It's excellent here, isn't it, Damon?" I tilted my head sweetly. Damon's face lost all color. He opened his mouth, closed it, then finally managed, "Sienna, please, oh God, I covered my mouth, widening my eyes in mock horror. Oh, that's right. It's not an anniversary anymore, is it?" I chuckled lightly. "Habit." A nerve jumped in Damon's jaw. Leela reached for his arm like she needed a life preserver. "Congratulations, by the way," I said, unfolding my napkin. "The photos were adorable. My dress looked stunning on you, Leela." Around their table, their friends shifted uncomfortably. Some avoided eye contact. Others openly stared, like they couldn't believe they were witnessing this unfold. One of Damon's business associates, some slick-haired guy in an overpriced suit, cleared his throat and tried for diplomacy. "Sienna, you should join us. We're celebrating." I glanced at him, my smile soft but unyielding. "That's very kind." I settled into my chair, perfectly angled to hear every word from their table. Damon's head snapped up. "Announcement?" I stirred sugar into my water. "Oh, didn't you get the invite? The gala. I'm sure it will be memorable." A waiter approached, presenting a bottle of champagne. "Compliments of Mr. Pearson," he said, pouring me a glass. I raised it slightly in Damon's direction. "To new beginnings." Leela jolted to her feet like she couldn't take it a second longer. We need to talk, now." Her nails dug into my arm as she dragged me toward the women's restroom. The moment the door closed behind us, she spun, her expression cracking wide open. "What are you doing?" she hissed, voice trembling. I tilted my head, examining her like she was a curious insect under glass. "Having dinner?" "Stop it," she snapped. "Stop acting like this doesn't hurt you. I know you, Sienna. You're planning something." I met her gaze head on. "You're right. You do know me, which means you also know exactly what happens to people who betray me." Leela's face crumpled. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. We fell in love. We couldn't help it." I snorted. Oh, spare me the romance novel. Couldn't help stealing my dress? Couldn't help waiting until I was out of town? Tears welled in her eyes, but I wasn't moved. Not anymore. The bathroom door cracked open briefly. Someone peeked in, took one look at us, and immediately retreated. "What's this announcement everyone's whispering about?" Leela demanded, trying for some semblance of control. "Oh," I said, turning back toward the mirror to check my lipstick. "You'll find out at the gala. Make sure to bring your brightest smile. There'll be photographers." Her voice wobbled. "Why are you being like this? I'm your sister." "Exactly," I said quietly, looking at her reflection instead of her actual face. "You were my sister, which makes your betrayal that much worse." A sharp knock on the door startled us both. "Leela?" Damon's voice. "Everything okay?" I stepped forward, yanked the door open, and came face to face with him. "Everything's fine," I said sweetly, "just a little sisterly heart-to-heart." Then I glanced at Damon's pale, sweaty face. "Oh, and Damon?" I smiled, leaning closer. "How's the company doing? I've heard some troubling things about this quarter's reports." His eyes flared. "How did you—" "I always did pay more attention to business than you ever gave me credit for." I patted his cheek like he was an unruly child. "See you at the gala." I walked back to my table, calm and collected. My lamb arrived, perfectly cooked, exactly how I liked it. As I ate, I noticed someone watching me. Nora. She sat at the edge of Damon and Lila's table, her face a kaleidoscope of fear and awe. The waiter approached. "More champagne, miss?" "No, thank you," I said, then paused. "Actually, send a bottle to my sister's table, with my congratulations." A grin tugged at the corner of the waiter's mouth. Excellent choice. I finished my meal slowly, savoring each bite as their entire party crumbled around them. Friends made awkward excuses, abandoning the sinking ship in twos and threes. When I finally stood, I made my way past their table, casually dropping a sleek business card in front of Damon. "You might need this," I said, without looking at him. "It's my lawyer's number, for when you figure out what's coming." The air behind me turned to ice as I stepped outside. The cool night wind swept over my skin, but the fire in my chest kept me warm. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We need to talk about Damon Harris. Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m., Haven Cafe. Ask for Ethan." I frowned, about to delete it when a second text appeared. "I have information you'll want before the gala." Across the street, the restaurant's large windows framed Damon and Lila locked in a furious argument. Nora sat off to the side, phone in hand, sneaking glances at me like she couldn't decide whether she wanted to hide or applaud. The waiter appeared with a polite nod. "Your car is ready, miss." "Thank you." As I slid into the back seat, my fingers hovered over my phone. 10 a.m. Haven Cafe. Ask for Ethan. A new player had entered the board, and I was more than ready. Haven Cafe was bustling with the low hum of morning conversation when I arrived, 5 minutes early. The smell of roasted coffee beans wrapped around me, momentarily soothing the fire that had been burning non-stop in my chest since the moment my entire life imploded. I scanned the room, eyes landing on a man seated in the back corner. He waved, a subtle gesture, 2 fingers lifting from the rim of his coffee cup. Athletic build, clean cut, crisp charcoal suit. He radiated sharpness, but not in an aggressive way. His face was all clean angles, softened by curious, intelligent eyes. Definitely not what I was expecting. "You must be Ethan," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. "And you're the woman who just took down Damon Harris," he replied smoothly, pushing a coffee toward me. "Black, 2 sugars, your usual, according to the barista." My brow lifted, equal parts amused and unsettled. Should I be flattered or concerned that you know my coffee order? He offered a smile that hinted at mischief but didn't quite touch arrogance. I make it my business to know things. He tapped the manila folder sitting on the table between us, like how Damon's been embezzling from Stratton Dynamics for the past year. I went still. My fingers hovered over the folder, hesitant for the first time in days. How did you get this? I'm the external auditor the board hired last month, Ethan said, his voice dipping low but steady. I started digging, found some very concerning patterns. I flipped open the folder. Transaction records, bank statements, wire transfers. Red circles highlighted trails of money moving out of company accounts into private holdings. And then my breath caught. Because the accounts weren't in Damon's name, they were in Lila's. What? I whispered, scanning faster. No, that can't be right. Ethan leaned forward, folding his hands. Damon's been funneling millions into accounts under your sister's name. She probably doesn't even know they exist. If the company collapsed, and it was on track to, she would have taken the fall for it. I sat back, stunned. He was setting her up. Exactly. My stomach twisted, equal parts horror and, God, was it pity? After everything she'd done to me? Why are you telling me this? I asked, narrowing my eyes. Why not just take it to the board? Ethan's jaw tightened. Because Damon did the same thing to my sister. Different company, different city, same scheme. She lost everything. Her job, her savings, her reputation. His voice was razor-sharp now. She's still recovering, years later. I stared at the folder, at the damning proof lying between us. You've been waiting for someone to stop him. He nodded once. And it seems that someone is you. My phone buzzed on the table. Lila, again. I declined the call without hesitation. Does the board know about this? I asked. Not yet. I was preparing the final report when I heard about your acquisition, Ethan said with a small, knowing smile. Figured you might want to be armed before the gala. The cafe door chimed. I glanced up and froze. Nora. She spotted me instantly. Her eyes flicked to Ethan, surprise flaring across her face, followed by panic. She marched over like she was on the verge of throwing herself between me and a speeding car. Sienna, she blurted, I've been trying to reach you. I noticed, I said, coolly. What is it? Nora wrung her hands, glancing nervously at Ethan, but deciding to press on. It's Lila. She found something weird, in her mail. Bank statements, for accounts she swears aren't hers. Ethan sat forward sharply. When did they arrive? Yesterday, after the dinner. Nora's gaze flicked toward me. She confronted Damon. He told her it was a mistake, some clerical error. And she believed him? I asked, disbelief curling in my voice. She doesn't know what to believe, Nora said, her voice cracking. Sienna, what's going on? I gathered the documents back into the folder and slid them into my bag. Tell Leela to hold on to those statements. Tell her not to sign anything, not a single document Damon hands her. Understand? Nora's face paled. Sienna, you're scaring me. Good. I stood and Ethan followed, sliding his jacket back over his frame. It means you're paying attention. The morning sunlight felt sharper, harsher than it had when I walked in. Ethan fell into step beside me as I headed for the curb. You sure you're ready for this? I glanced at him, then at the folder, now burning a hole in my bag. Ready? I was born for this. Ethan cracked the barest grin. You're dangerous. So is Damon, I said. But the thing about men like him, they never expect the people they underestimate to be the ones holding the knife. My phone buzzed again. A text. Damon. Just got an interesting call from the board. What have you done? I held it up so Ethan could see. He let out a low chuckle. He's starting to figure it out. Good, I typed back with deliberate slowness. Looking forward to discussing it at the gala. Ethan watched me type, then nodded approvingly. "You're enjoying this. Wouldn't you?" I shot him a sly smile. "Fair point." He reached into his pocket and handed me a small USB drive. "Everything I've got. His other companies, his past victims. Use it. Make it hurt." I pocketed it like it was ammunition, because it was. "I need a list of every board member's contact," I said, already pulling up my messages. "We're moving the timeline forward." "Done," Ethan said. "I'll send it tonight." A brief hesitation crossed his face. "Just be careful. Damon gets dangerous when he's cornered." I paused, locking eyes with him. "So do I." The emergency board meeting was set for 3 p.m., but I arrived nearly an hour early. I wanted to be there, to watch them file in one by one, watch the growing unease settle over each of their faces as they realized something was deeply, irrevocably wrong. Stratton Dynamics boardroom was a polished glass and steel monument to old money and legacy, a legacy that was about to be torn down and rebuilt by me. Damon's father was one of the first to arrive, his normally stern expression weighed down by something heavier than just age. His uncle followed, tapping nervously on his phone, avoiding eye contact with anyone who walked by. Then came the other board members, men and women I'd researched meticulously over the last few months. Some were loyal to the Harris family, but most were pragmatists, people who cared about the survival of the company far more than the legacy of its failing leadership. The last person to arrive was Leela. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her, no makeup, hair pulled back in a trembling bun. Her hands clutched her purse like it was a life vest keeping her afloat in a sea of regret. Her eyes searched the room until they landed on me, and for a long, heavy second, neither of us moved. Then the door opened again, and Damon stormed in. "What the hell is this?" His voice thundered, carrying the desperate edge of a man whose world was starting to tilt out of his control. "You can't be here." "Oh, but I can," I said smoothly, rising from my seat at the head of the table. "Marcus." My mentor stood and cleared his throat. "Ms. Pierce is now the majority shareholder in Stratton Dynamics," he announced, holding up the official documents for the room to see. "She has every right to be here." The gasp that rippled through the room was better than any symphony. Damon's face turned a deep, blotchy red. This is ridiculous." His father stood, voice heavy. "What did you say?" "Perhaps," I interjected calmly, sitting back and folding my hands, "we should begin. We have quite a lot to discuss." The door opened once more, and Ethan slipped inside, nodding slightly toward me. He carried his laptop under one arm, an external drive in hand, and zero expression on his face, just pure, cold professionalism. "Before we start," I said, raising my voice to the room, "I should mention this meeting is being recorded. Legal requirement. I'm sure you all understand." Damon blanched. No, you can't." I nodded to Ethan, who plugged his laptop into the projector. The massive wall screen flickered to life. Bank statements. Transaction trails. Wire transfers highlighted in bearish red. Ethan stood, voice crisp. "Over the last 14 months, approximately $12 million has been siphoned from Stratton Dynamics operating accounts into private holdings." Damon's father surged forward. "That's impossible. Our audits were falsified," Ethan cut in smoothly. "The real numbers tell a very different story." I kept my eyes fixed on Lila. Her hands were shaking now, gripping her purse so tightly her knuckles were bone white. "These accounts," Ethan continued, clicking to the next slide, "are registered under the name Lila Pierce." Gasps echoed through the room. No, Lila pushed up from her chair, horrified. I didn't do this. I didn't open any accounts." Damon lunged halfway out of his seat. "Lila, shut up." "Did you sign anything?" I asked quietly, cutting him off. "Think carefully." Her lips trembled. Last week, Damon said it was for our future, an investment account. I signed. I shut my eyes for one small, bitter second. Damon rounded on me, pure venom. You planned this. You... No, I said, cold steel threading every word. You planned this. I just exposed it. I turned to the board, letting my voice ring clear. The company is failing under Damon's leadership. His decisions have brought us to the brink. I propose an immediate change in leadership. I'm prepared to step in as CEO. A stunned silence filled the room. This is a family company, Damon's father stammered, clearly reeling. And it still can be, I replied evenly. You'll retain your role as chairman, but Damon is done. Or what? Damon spat. You'll send this to the press? Not the press, I smiled coldly. The Financial Regulatory Bureau and the Fraud Division of Law Enforcement. I let that hang in the air like a sword, suspended by a thread. Your choice. The tension in the room was suffocating. Lila had both hands pressed over her mouth, staring at Damon like she was seeing a stranger for the first time. There's more, Ethan said suddenly, switching slides. Similar patterns at Damon's previous employers, 3 other companies, same scam, same end result. Lies, Damon snarled, all lies. Then, like a switch flipping, his rage exploded. You conniving! He lunged across the table, straight for Ethan. Security guards, already stationed outside, surged in. Damon fought, wild, desperate, but they pinned him, arms behind his back. You're finished, he screamed at me. You hear me? Finished. I stood slowly, smoothed my jacket, and met his gaze with something colder than hate. No, Damon, I said. You are. I looked toward the guards. Please escort Mr. Harris out. I believe the police are waiting in the lobby. Damon's father sat back in his chair, face pale, mouth set in a grim line. As his son was dragged away kicking and shouting, he finally spoke. I moved to accept Miss Pierce's proposal. The vote was unanimous. When it was done, when the signatures were inked and the control was formally transferred, I stood in the silence of the now empty boardroom. The tension that had gripped my body for days began to bleed away. Lila approached me, her voice small. Did you know about the accounts? Not until yesterday, I said, passing her a business card. This is Grant & Keller Law. Harper is the best fraud lawyer in the city. Call her. Her eyes welled. Why are you helping me after everything I've done? Because you're my sister, I said, lifting my chin. And because Damon didn't just betray me, he betrayed you, too. I gathered my papers, sliding them into my leather portfolio. But Lila, I met her eyes, steady and unsparing. We are not okay. Not yet. I know, she whispered, her voice cracking. I am so sorry, Sienna, for everything. Sorry doesn't fix it. My tones softened just slightly, but it's a start. Ethan was waiting for me by the glass doors. That went better than expected, he said, falling into step beside me. Better is subjective, I replied. Now comes the fun part. The gala, he reminded me. I glanced sideways at him, considering. You coming? I asked. His lips twitched. As your date. I allowed myself a small laugh. As someone I actually trust. Ethan extended his arm, mock formal. In that case, lead the way. As we stepped out into the late afternoon sunlight, my phone buzzed. Harper. Just met with Lila. You're not going to believe what she told me. I typed back quickly. Save it for the gala. Things are about to get very interesting. And for the first time in days, something like hope stirred in my chest. Maybe revenge wasn't just about tearing things down. Maybe it was about rebuilding something better from the ashes. The gala ballroom shimmered under the glow of 1,000 crystals. Golden chandeliers hung like constellations from the vaulted ceilings. casting a soft, decadent light over the sea of tuxedos, sequined gowns, and champagne flutes. Music floated through the air, a haunting, classical piece that made every step feel momentous. And then there was me. I descended the grand staircase in a midnight blue gown, the silk hugging every curve like it had been stitched by fate itself. My heels clicked sharply against the marble, each sound a metronome, counting down to the moment my world and theirs would shift forever. Waiting at the bottom was Ethan, impossibly handsome in his tuxedo. When he saw me, his lips tugged into a smile, warm and grounded in a way that sent something strange and unfamiliar flickering in my chest. "Ready to make history?" he asked, offering his arm. "Born ready," I replied, looping my hand through his. As we stepped into the crowd, camera flashes exploded. The business elite mingled with celebrities and journalists, all drawn here by whispers of a major corporate shakeup. Everyone knew something seismic was about to happen. They just didn't know what. Yet. "Sienna!" Harper's voice rose above the din. She hurried over, dragging a champagne glass behind her. "You need to hear what Lila told me." "Later," I said, squeezing her hand. "First, the show." From the edge of the room, I spotted Marcus with the PR team. He raised his glass in a subtle nod. Everything was set. "Where's Lila?" I asked. "Here," came the small voice behind me. I turned. There she was, dressed in a simple black sheath that somehow made her look even more exposed than if she'd worn nothing at all. Her makeup was minimal, eyes red-rimmed but clear. She clutched a glass of water like it was an anchor. "I met with the police," Lila said quietly. They asked about Damon's accounts, about everything. They're investigating all his past ventures." "Good." I handed her a champagne flute. "Stay close. You'll want to hear this." The subtle hush that precedes major announcements began to ripple across the room. Waiters moved like shadows, drawing back to the edges. Conversations faded into murmurs. Anticipation gathered thick as smoke. Marcus stepped onto the small stage near the front, microphone in hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice echoed through the ballroom, smooth as silk but firm as steel. "Thank you for joining us this evening. We have an important announcement regarding the future of Stratton Dynamics." A pause. The tension tightened like a drawn bowstring. "Please welcome our new CEO, Miss Sienna Pierce." The applause was immediate, but hesitant, confusion woven into every clap. I walked to the stage, feeling the gravity of 100 eyes, some supportive, some skeptical, some already recalculating their alliances. Camera flashes ignited like fireworks. "Thank you," I began, my voice steady but laced with quiet power. Stratton Dynamics has been a cornerstone of innovation for 3 generations. But legacies are not built by resting on history. They're built by adapting, by choosing integrity over tradition, by choosing responsibility. I let my gaze sweep the room, catching faces, Damon's father, board members, investors. Some watched with curiosity, others with dread. Tonight doesn't just mark a change in leadership, I continued. It marks the beginning of a new chapter in corporate accountability. I let the silence stretch for a heartbeat. As my first act as CEO, I said, I am announcing a full forensic audit of all company finances. Transparency will be our new foundation. A ripple ran through the crowd, some gasps, some quiet murmurs of approval. Additionally, I glanced toward Marcus, who nodded, stepping forward with a folder. We are establishing a victims' compensation fund for those affected by previous management's fraudulent activities. That drew sharper gasps, shocked whispers. To those who lost their savings, their futures, their trust, I said, voice sharper now, slicing through the murmurs, we see you. We will make it right. Ethan stepped forward, handing out prepared documents to the press. Within seconds, journalists were flipping through pages of financial reports, timelines, and damning evidence. The story was breaking live. Stratton Dynamics, the inside story of corporate betrayal and rebirth. Harper grabbed my hand. "You just detonated a nuclear bomb on this industry." "Good," I said softly. "They needed it." Then, like clockwork, Leah rushed in, weaving through the crowd, breathless. She made a beeline for Lila, who stiffened the moment she saw her. Leah leaned in, whispering frantically. Lila's face drained of color. Her hand tightened so hard around her glass, I thought it might shatter. "What is it?" I asked, stepping off the stage. Leah glanced at me, then back at Lila. "Damon." My stomach coiled. "He made bail," Lila whispered. "He's here." And right on cue, the ballroom doors slammed open. Damon stormed inside. Disheveled, unhinged, still in his tailored suit, but with his tie hanging loose, jacket rumpled like he hadn't slept. His eyes, wild, bloodshot, locked onto me like a missile on its target. "You think this is over?" he roared, his voice cracking. Security moved, but he was faster. Damon marched toward the stage, throwing a manila envelope onto the floor in front of me. Papers scattered. "I have proof," he snarled. "Proof you orchestrated all of this. You trapped me. You set me up." I knelt slowly, picked up one of the papers, scanned it, and laughed. "Ah," I said lightly, holding it up. "These." I turned to the crowd. "These are records of Damon's offshore accounts, the ones he thought were so cleverly hidden." Damon's face contorted. "How did you?" "Or maybe," I flipped to another sheet, "maybe you mean these emails, where you plan to frame my sister for your embezzlement if things went wrong." A visible wave of discomfort rolled across the ballroom. Damon's voice cracked. No, she helped me. Lila, tell them we planned this together." All eyes turned to Lila. For a moment, I wondered if the pull of guilt and history would snap her back into his orbit. But then, she stepped forward, small, trembling, but steady. "No," Lila said, voice barely above a whisper at first, then stronger. "No, Damon, you used me, just like you used everyone else." From her purse, she pulled out a small black recording device, clicked it on. Damon's voice, his own voice, filled the ballroom. "If this goes sideways, we pin it on her. Lila's naive enough, she'll sign anything." Gasps exploded. People reeled back as if the sound itself was poisonous. "Take him out," I said to security, my voice cold as steel. "The police are waiting." As they dragged Damon away, screaming obscenities, I turned back to Lila. "You recorded that?" She nodded, voice cracking. "After I saw the bank statements, after I realized what he really was." For a long moment, I just stared at her. Maybe, just maybe, she was learning. The second Damon's voice vanished behind the heavy ballroom doors, dragged out by security, his wild curses echoing down the marble hallway, the room broke into chaos. Reporters surged forward, cameras flashing, microphones shoved toward me, firing questions faster than I could process. "Ms. Pierce, is it true you orchestrated the acquisition weeks ago? How long have you known about Damon Harris's fraud? Are you filing civil charges as well? Will Stratton Dynamics survive this scandal?" Ethan stepped between me and the onslaught with the grace of someone who'd clearly done this before. "No further questions at this time. Details are in the press packets," he said, guiding me out of the media swarm with a hand on the small of my back. "Ethan," I started. "I've got you," he murmured, firm but gentle, guiding me toward the far corner of the ballroom. Behind us, Marcus wrangled the rest of the press, his voice calm but commanding. The PR team moved like chess pieces, closing ranks around the narrative we had perfectly orchestrated. "You," Ethan said, turning toward me with a slow grin, "are a legend." I huffed out a shaky breath that turned into something dangerously close to laughter. Tell that to my adrenaline. I feel like I just ran a marathon. A sudden movement caught my eye. Across the ballroom, I saw Lila standing with Harper, both surrounded by a circle of investors and board members. Lila wasn't hiding anymore. Her shoulders were straighter, her eyes, while still rimmed with regret, held something new: courage. Harper caught my eye from across the room and mouthed, "You're not going to believe this." Before I could even process what she meant, my phone vibrated. A news alert. Breaking. Serial fraudster Damon Harris faces new charges following leaked evidence at Stratton Gala. Another headline pinged seconds later. Exclusive. How Sienna Pierce saved Stratton Dynamics and exposed a decade of corporate corruption. My knees should have buckled from relief, but instead I felt weightless. Like for the first time in weeks, I could finally breathe without the chokehold of betrayal constricting my ribs. "Come here," Ethan said, tugging me gently onto the dance floor. "You've earned at least one normal moment tonight." "Normal?" I raised a brow, amused despite myself. "Nothing about tonight is normal." "True," he grinned, sliding an arm around my waist as soft music shifted into something slow, intimate. We swayed to the music, just the two of us in our own quiet bubble, while the rest of the world recalibrated itself around the wreckage and the rebuilding. Across the room, I caught Lila's gaze. She mouthed, "Thank you." I offered a subtle nod. We weren't healed, not yet, not even close. But maybe we weren't irreparably broken either. "I've got to admit," Ethan murmured against my temple, "you are dangerously impressive." I chuckled. "You say that like it's a bad thing." "On the contrary," he said, pulling back just enough to meet my gaze. "It's intoxicating." I startled at the honesty in his tone, but before I could reply, my phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Marcus. "Check the markets, now." With a small groan, I fished my phone out, pulling up the stock app. My jaw dropped. Stratton Dynamics stock, expected to tank from the scandal, was soaring. Investors, now fully aware of Damon's removal, the transparent audits, and the compensation fund, were flocking back in droves. Confidence was returning faster than anyone predicted. I turned the phone so Ethan could see. "Holy," he blinked. "You didn't just survive this, you flipped it." A second text from Marcus came in. "Trust, it seems, is good for business." I grinned, pocketing my phone. "Told you, I don't play to participate. I play to win," Ethan finished with a low laugh. Before I could say anything else, a waiter approached with a folded note. "Miss Pierce, urgent delivery." I unfolded it. "Meet me tomorrow, 9 a.m., Riley and Associates. It's about the victims. Harper." My chest tightened, but in a way that felt right. This wasn't over. Not yet. Damon was in custody, but the damage he left behind, the other victims, the people who had trusted him before me, before Lila, they deserved closure. They deserved justice. "One more fight," I murmured. Ethan squeezed my hand. "You don't have to do it alone." And for the first time in a long, long time, I believed him. The next morning, I stepped into the polished glass tower of Riley and Associates, Grant and Keller's rival firm and the best in the city when it came to financial crime. Harper was already waiting in the conference room. Her expression was unreadable as she slid a thick file toward me. Lila sat at the far end of the table, looking like someone who had barely slept, but her posture was upright, focused. "You're not going to believe this," Harper began, echoing her words from last night. "What now?" I asked, sitting down. She flipped open the file, and staring up at me was a grainy, black and white security photo, a much younger Damon, wrapped around the shoulders of a familiar face. I blinked. "Wait, that's my sister," Ethan said quietly, stepping into the room. His voice was tighter than I'd ever heard it. My sister, Ivy. Harper nodded grimly. Turns out, Damon's pattern of fraud and manipulation started long before any of this. Ivy was his first. My throat tightened. I glanced toward Lila, who had gone ghostly pale. This wasn't just a string of bad business decisions, Harper continued. This was a calculated pattern. He found women, earned their trust, used them to cover his tracks, then discarded them before anyone noticed. Silence. Thick. Suffocating. Until now, I finally said, my voice soft but dangerous. Until now, Ethan echoed. A strange, fierce determination settled over me. Damon's crimes weren't just numbers on a ledger. They were lives, stories, futures. And it was time to make it right. All of it, I said, flipping the file closed. We fix all of it. Lila sat forward. Tell me what to do. Harper exchanged a glance with me, then nodded. First, she said, we call every one of Damon's victims. Then, I added, voice steady, we build something stronger than anything he ever tried to destroy. By the time the sun slipped behind the skyline that evening, my office looked like the headquarters of a federal investigation. Files were spread across every available surface: sticky notes, timelines, printed transaction records, photographs, every piece of Damon's web mapped out and dissected. Lila sat on the corner of the conference table, barefoot now, her heels long discarded. She was cross-referencing bank statements with victim testimonies like her life depended on it. Maybe, in a way, it did. Ethan stood at the whiteboard, marker in hand, sketching connections between the victims, the shell companies Damon had set up, and the flow of money. His precision was relentless, efficient and focused in a way that made my heart tighten every time I caught his profile in motion. This, Ethan taps the board, circling a company name, Blue Ridge Holdings, was the funnel point for the largest withdrawals, same pattern as the others. And the accounts are still active, Harper confirmed, scrolling through a legal database on her laptop. If we move fast, we can freeze them before any more assets disappear. Lila groaned, rubbing her temples. How did I not see this? He used my name for this one too. I crossed the room, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. Because you trusted him. Because he made sure you did. That's not your shame to carry, Lila. It's his. She swallowed, nodding but not entirely believing me yet. Harper closed her laptop with a decisive snap. The restitution plan is almost complete. We've identified 23 primary victims across 4 companies, with combined losses totaling around $20 million. Silence. It hit like a boulder, heavy, immovable. I'll cover it, I said quietly. Lila's head whipped toward me. Sienna, you can't. I can, I interrupted, leveling my gaze on her, and I will. You don't have to fix his mess. I know I don't, I said softly but firmly, but I'm choosing to, because this company bears his shadow, and if I want it to stand for something else, something better, that starts with doing what's right. Ethan stepped toward me, his jaw tightening. Sienna, that's not just expensive, I finished for him. Yeah, I know. But it's also brave, Harper added, and exactly the statement this company and this industry needs. My phone buzzed again. Another news alert. Breaking. New charges filed against Damon Harris as more victims step forward. Bail revoked. Sentencing trial fast-tracked. A photo of Damon, now in an orange jumpsuit, handcuffed, flashed across my screen. I stared at it for a long moment. The man who once loomed so large in my world now looked small, shrinking under the weight of his own choices. And yet, the knot in my chest didn't loosen, because even when justice is served, the scars don't just vanish. You know, Ethan said, pulling me gently from my thoughts, you never did answer me. Answer what? He smiled, softer now. Dinner. No business, just dinner. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. It was so strange. after everything, after betrayal and war and chaos, that there could be space for something like this. My lips curved before I could stop them. Yeah, I think I'd like that. Leela stood, folding her arms, teasing despite the exhaustion on her face. You two are ridiculous. Harper laughed from her seat. Oh, finally, someone said it. The tension broke, just a little. It was a start. 2 weeks later, I stood outside the courthouse. A crisp wind tugged at my coat, but it wasn't enough to chase away the electricity running through my veins. Inside, the courtroom fell silent as the judge shuffled his papers. Damon sat 2 rows ahead of me, dressed in his jumpsuit, wrists chained, shoulders slumped. His once carefully curated image of power was gone. No more tailored suits, no more rehearsed charm. Just a man stripped bare by the weight of his own corruption. The judge began. The defendant has shown a clear pattern of deliberate fraud, manipulation, and exploitation. His voice echoed across the room. The impact on his victims has been profound, financially, emotionally, professionally. This court takes into account the scale and repeated nature of the crimes. I felt Leela's hand squeeze mine from where she sat beside me. On her other side, Harper nodded silently. Ethan sat at my side, his thumb brushing mine, steady, grounding. Therefore, the judge continued, this court sentences Damon Harris to 15 years in federal prison. A collective gasp, then hushed whispers spread through the gallery. Tears welled in Ivy's eyes, Ethan's sister, who sat just 1 row ahead of us, flanked by several other victims whose lives Damon had tried to dismantle. She pressed her hand to her mouth, finally allowing herself to cry, not out of grief, but release. Additionally, the judge said, the defendant is ordered to pay full restitution to all victims. Damon lurched forward, his face twisted with disbelief. Your Honor, please. Guards, the judge ordered, remove the defendant. 2 officers flanked him instantly. As Damon was dragged past me, his eyes met mine. Gone was the arrogance, the swagger, the smirk. All that was left was a hollow man drowning in the consequences he never imagined would catch up. I didn't look away. Not until the door slammed behind him. Outside, reporters flooded the courthouse steps. Marcus handled them like the professional he was, flanking the microphones with carefully crafted statements about justice, corporate integrity, and the future of Stratton Dynamics. Ethan took my hand, squeezing it lightly. It's done. I nodded, but the lump in my throat stayed tight. Almost. Leela lingered by my car, waiting. When I walked over, she didn't say anything at first. We stood there in silence, watching the chaos of cameras and press conferences unfold. I sold my apartment, she said quietly. I blinked. What? Used the money to start a support group for fraud victims. Ivy's helping me run it. A strange, bittersweet warmth filled my chest. I know, Harper told me. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Sienna, Leela continued. Her voice was raw but steady. But I wanted you to know, I'm trying to be better. A family walked past us, 2 little girls holding hands between their parents, giggling as they skipped ahead. Leela and I both watched them for a long time. Then I reached into my purse, pulled out a white envelope, and handed it to her. What's this? Open it. She unfolded it slowly, eyes scanning the letter. Her breath caught. A job offer? She whispered. Victim advocacy? Head of the new department? I nodded. If you want it. Tears brimmed in her eyes. Why are you giving me this? Because you're my sister, I said softly. And because you've lived both sides of this. You understand the damage. You can help fix it. For a long moment, she just stood there, gripping the envelope like it might dissolve in her hands. Then, finally, thank you. I'm not doing it for thanks, I replied. I'm doing it because it's time we both started rebuilding. As we walked back toward the building, Ethan held the door open, offering me his signature half grin. Ready to go back to work? I glanced over my shoulder at Leela, who squared her shoulders and followed. Ready to start over, I corrected. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming better than they ever believed you could be. The lobby of Stratton Dynamics felt different now. Gone were the whispers of scandal and the heavy weight of betrayal that had clung to every polished marble surface. In its place was something lighter, sharper. Not peace exactly, but purpose, a rebirth. Ethan stood by the front desk, holding 2 coffees and a file tucked under his arm. When he saw me step through the revolving doors, his smile pulled wide and easy. "You look like someone who finally slept," he said, handing me my cup. I did, admitted, sipping gratefully. 6 whole hours, uninterrupted. Reckless, he teased. A little, I grinned, but after sentencing day, I figured the world could survive without me for one night. His hand brushed mine, subtle but deliberate. "Well, for the record, the world's a little better with you in it." I blinked. "Careful, Ethan. You're starting to sound like someone who actually likes me." He tilted his head. "Imagine that." We both laughed, falling into step toward the elevators. When the door slid open, I was greeted by something that stopped me cold. In the center of the lobby, a massive portrait had been installed overnight. Not of me, not of Damon, not of any CEO. It was a mosaic of faces. The victims. Photos of every person affected by Damon's schemes, stitched together into a breathtaking image of a phoenix rising from flames. Beneath it was a plaque that read, "From the ashes, we rebuild, together." I didn't realize I was holding my breath until Ethan's hand found mine again. "Did you—" I started. "Marcus's idea," he said quietly, but we all signed off. Emotions swelled, tightening my throat. "It's perfect. You're perfect," he said, so softly I almost wondered if I'd imagined it. Before I could answer, the elevator chimed open to my floor, the executive suite. Inside, Leela was already at her desk, a stack of files in front of her. Gone was the frantic, brittle version of my sister I'd known over the past month. In her place was someone focused, steady, someone healing. When she saw me, she grinned. "Hey, boss." I raised a brow. "That'll take some getting used to." "Well," she stood, crossing her arms, mock serious, "get used to it quickly. We've got 3 new victims reaching out this morning. Ivy's meeting them now, Harper's reviewing contracts for the victim fund, and, oh," she slid a folder across my desk. "Your 10 a.m. meeting? The city wants you to speak at the Chamber of Commerce next month. Keynote." I laughed, shaking my head. "Of course they do." Leela's expression softened. "You're not just a CEO now, Sienna. You're something else, something bigger." I met her gaze. "So are you." A quiet moment passed, the kind that used to be awkward between us, strained by years of unspoken competition, resentment, and wounds neither of us had the tools to heal. But now it was something else entirely. "I won't screw this up," Leela said, almost to herself. "I know," I answered, meaning it. "Neither will I." By mid-afternoon, the day blurred into meetings, calls, and media briefings. Every headline sang a different version of the same truth. Stratton Dynamics, from corporate scandal to corporate savior. New CEO Sienna Pierce rewrites the rules of redemption. The woman who took down a fraud kingpin and saved an empire. I skimmed the articles, then shut the browser. The headlines were flattering, but they didn't tell the whole story. This wasn't about saving a company. This was about saving people, and maybe, just maybe, saving myself along the way. That evening, as the city bathed in gold and indigo light, I stood in front of my office window, watching the skyline shift and shimmer. I felt more myself than I had in years, whole, capable, free. The soft knock on my office door made me turn. It was Ethan. No file this time, no coffee, no excuses. "Dinner?" he asked simply. I smiled. No business? No business, he promised, stepping closer. Just us. For a heartbeat, I let myself consider the version of me from just a month ago. The woman who thought her life was planned, her future secured, her relationships unshakable. She'd been betrayed, crushed, ripped apart. But the woman standing here now, she'd rebuilt. Stronger, smarter, sharper. Not because of what Damon had done to her, but in spite of it. Yeah, I said, stepping into Ethan's arms. Dinner sounds perfect. As we walked out together, past the front desk, past the mosaic of survivors, I caught my reflection in the glass doors. Not the reflection of a victim, or even of someone seeking revenge, but of someone who had done something infinitely harder. Someone who had chosen to rise. This story is a powerful reminder that betrayal isn't the end, it's the beginning of becoming someone stronger. When Sienna's world shattered, her fiancé stolen, her sister's deception exposed, she had every reason to fall apart. But instead, she rose. Not with screaming or chaos, but with intelligence, strategy, and ruthless grace. She turned heartbreak into fuel, turned revenge into a masterclass in reclaiming power. This isn't just a story about getting even, it's about rising higher, setting boundaries, and proving that the worst moments in life can lead to the most extraordinary transformations. And if life ever tries to break you, remember, you don't just survive, you rebuild, stronger, smarter, unstoppable. If you found inspiration, strength, or just couldn't look away from this roller coaster of betrayal and redemption, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more gripping stories like this. Your support helps this channel grow and brings you more content about powerful journeys, life lessons, and transformation. Before you go, comment below and tell me what country or region are you watching from. I love seeing how far this community reaches across the world.